Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this sixth session in our Global Conversation series. Spring is finally here, and all of us at Your Travel Designer have certainly felt a resurgence in travel over the past month, and that is giving us hope and joy about the return of travel. I'm super excited to introduce today's panelists and some of my favorite lodges and ranches in North America. Starting with Sarah Cruz. Hello, Sarah. GM of Clayoquot Wilderness Lodge, located off the tip of Vancouver Island and accessible via seaplane from Seattle or Vancouver. Call me biased since I'm living in the Pacific Northwest, but I think this is one of the most breathtakingly beautiful and richly diverse parts of the planet. The perfect spot to disconnect to reconnect. Sarah's returning to Clayoquot after spending time down in the States, and I, for one, am looking forward to hearing all the new plans for their upcoming reopening. My good friend Mike Williams is joining us from a place I cry every time I have to leave. I first visited Brush Creek Ranch in 2013, and it's located in southern Wyoming. Mike is their executive VP and COO, and since that time, the ranch has expanded to add 2 additional ranch properties and the farm. I could literally talk for hours about how special the Brush Creek Ranch Collection is, but I don't want to steal Mike's thunder. Another dear friend and industry colleague is Jessica Cook. Hi, Jessica, who joins us from the Auberge Resorts Collection as their area director of sales and marketing for both the lodge at Blue Sky in Utah and just about to reopen Bishop's Lodge, which is located outside of Santa Fe. The lodge at Blue Sky was one of the last places I stayed in 2019 prior to the world kind of going sideways. And it's nice to reflect back on that wonderful stay and all the great experiences that we had. I cannot wait to hear about the new project, Bishop's Lodge, as Santa Fe is such a diverse destination. So thank you again, all 3 of you, for taking time out of your hectic schedules to join us. And I'm sure if you're anything like me, things are pretty crazy right now, which is a positive trend. So speaking of trends, with the exception of Clayoquot, which unfortunately had to remain closed for the 2020 season, and Bishop's Lodge, which was starting their major refurbishment, I'm sure that the 2020 season was surprising in many ways, with travel just starting to reopen. And I think probably Jessica and Mike, you saw some different trends as travel was starting to take off. I'd like to know what surprised you both with Brush Creek Ranch and Blue Sky during last season, and what did the 3 of you anticipate things are going to be like as we head into the busy summer season this year? And maybe Mike, you'd like to start us off.
Sure, thank you. Good, and good morning. We got closed down on March 20th last year. We had just checked in a wedding on Thursday night at 5 o'clock. The governor closed us. And like everyone, we just didn't know what the future would hold. But come around the beginning of May, during all those cancels, which we basically canceled about 70% of everything on our books, but the phone started to ring, and it started to ring with leisure families, and the phone continued to ring, and it continued to ring. And actually we had the best year we ever had, and we were operating 42 days less in this season. But what was really interesting, our McGee Homestead, a Relay and Chateau property, which is right down the road, when I convinced our ownership that it's good for our employees, it's good for our ranch to open, we were just going to open lodge and spa, just the original ranch. And we normally operate with about 300 associates in the season. And we started with 138. And within 3 weeks, we had to bolster that back up to about 210 because the demand was so great. But what was really terrific, what we found out, people were calling to rent the McGee Homestead out as a family buyout. So at the end of June, we decided to open it up as well. And it sold out the rest of the season all the way through October. What we're seeing now in 2021 is our booking pace is 70% up from a record year. So it is just, people see our kind of properties, and I'm sure the story is going to be exactly the same with my two peers here. People view wide open spaces, they view being with family, they view being able to do things just with their family as a premium right now. But we just never thought, well, once we decided to open, that we would see the demand that we did. And it's everywhere. I've talked to my friends at Plaza Up and my friends at Ranch at Rock Creek, and I'm sure I'm going to hear the same from my two peers. But that's what surprised us at Brush Creek.
Yes.
We saw very similar trends to what Mike was just describing. So that was certainly, it started out in a little bit of a harrowing scenario. And then, over the course of the year, we were able to bring, staff back from furlough, and we ended up having a really great year where people were seeking these experiences that allowed them to reconnect with the natural environment in a really profound way. And I loved seeing that. I loved seeing the sheer number of people doing these epic American road trips. I loved that people were combining the Lodge at Blue Sky with so many nearby national parks. So just to the south of us, we have all of the national parks in the Grand Circle. So that includes the Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, Zion Monument Valley, and Arches and Moab. So the closest park from us is about 4 hours to Canyonlands and Moab. And Arches, and that was fantastic because a lot of people would use the Lodge at Blue Sky as a pre or a post-trip option to exploring some of those national parks. And then similarly to the north of us, we're just 4 hours to Grand Teton National Park, and then another hour beyond that to Yellowstone. So it was really fantastic to see the sheer number of people that were getting rejuvenated interest in their own backyard. I think that's a fantastic silver lining in an otherwise really challenging year.
Yeah. And Sarah, again, unfortunately, the situation being for you all at Clayoquot, you remained closed over 2020, but your plan is to be open sometime starting in June. And I think, just hearing Mike and Jessica speak, I think the demand is really going to be there. From not only hopefully the US and international market, but from the local Canadian market too, as we were talking about just a few minutes ago.
Absolutely. I'm completely excited to be able to reopen for 2021 and talk about pent-up demand. So we've been seeing it from our international and our Americans, but what's been exciting for Clayoquot has been the call out from the Canadians. This is a special property here in Canada, and we really do rely on over the border guests to come out to play. And I think what's happened this year is people, exactly what Michael said and Jessica said, is this pent up desire to go back into the wilderness. I know we live in this privileged property. We have these opportunities that we've been doing as career hospitality leaders in wilderness remote locations. We understand the preciousness of these properties, but now seeing, thanks to this unusual situation with COVID, we actually see everybody now wanting to join our world. And I'm just in awe of the people that are calling to be here, and I'm super excited to welcome Canada to her own backyard. So I see nothing but really optimism and positivity for going into 2021.
Yeah, and I think that kind of brings me to my next topic, because of course I think most of our clients are pretty aware that travel's still slightly different than the before times, and there's safety protocols in place for both staff and for guests to follow. And for many of the people, like Mike mentioned, the appeal of staying at your properties is they easily lend to social distancing. And I wonder if you think that's been the attraction, the main attraction to new clientele, or do you think that there's other factors leading to the increase in demand? And maybe Jessica, you want to start us off on that.
Sure. I think social distancing was certainly the catalyst for people to seek out these types of destinations. That coupled with the fact that international markets were closed. But I think once people started at the very beginning of last summer to get back into some of these beautiful natural spaces, I think a natural byproduct of doing that is that you know, at the end of the day, we're all animals and we all have this need to be around green things and living things. And I think that's very grounding and very healing. And at a time, especially when we're just undergoing so much stress, there's a profound effect that the natural environment has on our autonomic nervous systems. It's very balancing. So I think getting out of cities, especially, you know, people that have lived in big cities for the last year, they really have borne the brunt of, you know, some serious stress and additional challenges that we don't personally deal with living in these remote places. So I think that having the ability to visit these spaces and really just take a moment to appreciate a sunset and sit around a campfire at the end of the day, sharing stories with your loved ones about these incredible adventures. I mean, that really is it's a very grounding and very humanizing thing to do.
And healing in a lot of ways.
Very healing.
Yeah. Sarah, what do you think about that?
I could go on forever about this. I left corporate America about 4 years ago. So I often tell everybody I'm like a new baby in the remote wilderness world. And I also, I'm a living example of somebody's life that changed, leaving the city life, leaving corporate America, as I said, and then living this lifestyle. And I can't talk enough about the effect that it has. When you talk about leaving Brush Creek because you want to cry, because this is really, if you just embrace this energy around you and take a second just to decompress, just walk away from your device just for a moment, and appreciate some of these pockets of paradise that we have left, you're going to feel such a sense of change that goes right into your soul. And we as hospitality leaders get to provide that added on personalized service in everything that we do to make sure that the humans just reconnect for half a second. Sometimes it's called take off your shoes and feel the dirt in between your toes. But it is a miracle. And today, after COVID, that's when I said the world's going to come out to play now. Because I think everybody's going to understand how important it is to take this time out and appreciate what we have with each other, and in these little pockets that are left for us to just have that quiet moment of appreciating, as you say, a campfire, a sunset, back to basics, homesteading again. But with such personalized service from our humans, I love it because our staff embrace our guests coming in and take them through that journey of healing, as I call it, and with joy at the end as they head out. So I'm just a huge fan of the whole world to come to all of our resorts to experience what I've lived for the last 4 years. It's pretty special.
And Mike, it must be so amazing when you see some of these families come from New York, LA, some of these big cities, like Jessica mentioned, that were so impacted, you know, these epicenters of, you know, the pandemic, and to see them kind of just like, it kind of washes away, right? And to see them be with maybe their grandparents that they haven't been able to be with, and come together as families and just see them
here,
be natural again.
Yeah, we're one of the states that are 100% open. I mean, everything wide open, no masks. We're still wearing masks here on the ranch, but all of our guests do not have to. In public, you don't have to. Keep in mind, Wyoming has a population of 500,000 people. Our town has a population of 1,800 people. So everyone here can get a vaccination. Our staff just got they got their vaccinations last Saturday. 200 new employees coming in May are going to have theirs. But the one thing that we saw this year, a couple things. One was the multi-generational family coming together. Oftentimes they get out of their car when they approach our check-in area at the top of the flagstone, and they would say, this is the first time we've been out of our house in X amount of months. It's the first time. And to see the joy and the release and how they feel and take the breath of fresh air in, we heard that so many times. The second thing that we saw too is the love and adoration and protection that the multi-generational families had for the grandparents, because they knew they were vulnerable, and just how they were protective of them here on the ranch. and how appreciative they were that we practiced safe service, and that when they were going to an activity, they had an SUV to themselves, and they had a dining table away from everyone else. Just, I heard it day in and day out, how they felt, you know, when they got to the outdoor arena and they see the wranglers wiping off the saddles and the bridles with the disinfectant wipes. It's all of those little touches that we made sure that we had to do it, but we wanted to make sure the guests saw it as well. And because as the summer went on, you know, when we first opened on June 7th, people were pretty tight. I mean, they were really, really uptight, nervous, scared about this pandemic, some more than others. As the summer went on, you could see that it started to relax just a little bit. And this winter, it's been another bit of stage of relaxation. So our places, as we all know, this allows people to let their hair down. It allows them to relax. It allows them to put their phone down. We don't even have TVs in rooms, and we did that for a reason. We never were going to have TVs in the room. We want you to be outside with nature. So we're going to see more of that this year. It's going to be a busy, busy, busy year. What we've done this year, this is our 11th year being open. We are recommitting ourselves to get everything basics, go back to the very basics of what we started this business for. And it's really been fun doing it, because there's so many things as you grow and you get bigger. But let's get back to the roots. Let's go back to that first planning meeting. That's what we're delivering at Brush Creek this year.
Yeah. And it's interesting, you know, in this topic, you've all brought up staff and how, you know, closely your staff, you know, works with the guests and goes about providing that comfort and security. And I can imagine, you know, building a team in a remote location, it must be such a unique situation. But I would think once the word gets out, there might be like a little bit of a field of dreams adage, build it and they will come. And the right staff starts to seek you out. And I wonder if there's a little bit of truth to that. And maybe Sarah, you want to start that off, because you're the most remote of all three of these, you know.
So I think the story I would love to share with you is actually 2020, the summer that we closed. I just arrived back to the property. What an emotional journey to be able to return to Clayoquot in this leadership role, right on the edge of closing. And I had early arrivals. I had about 18 employees that I'd requested to come in early because I wanted to get camp ready for the season. And so imagine the shock and dismay when I received them and then had to inform them that I have no work for them. These individuals the reason Clayoquot is where it is today is because of these amazing team members that said they had nowhere to go. Everybody was afraid, you know, there's that sense of fear. And then they looked around the property. I have a herd of 30 horses here. And they were like, well, Sarah, how are you going to look after the horses? And they all stayed with me, and they worked the entire summer without a paycheck to look after a property that they love. And that is something that I'm discovering, and I'm sure I'm going to hear a very similar story from my peers here, is that our staff fall in love with this property. They love where they work. They do it for the property because it is so special, and it's something that they take very seriously. And I just find that inspiring for myself as a leader to see my frontline employees step up and come to the barn every day. I can't even imagine how I would have survived the summer without them, going out and taking care of all the landscapes, taking care of the trails, taking care of the entire camp, making sure it was safe and ready for the season. And here they are, they do. And I believe strongly that when I first discovered this world, before this change is where people are going to be looking, employees are going to be looking for a lifestyle change, and will take on this. And it's not a job, it's a life. and they are here because they love the property. So I am, I don't worry about employees because I worry that I'm doing enough for them because they give so much back to the property, to the land, to our guests. It's a real honor to work with them, is what I say.
And Jess?
Yeah, I think to echo some of Sarah's comments, 2020 was it was such a year of bonding for the team. We had only been open for just under a year when we closed in March for the COVID closure. And so if there's two things that can really bring a team together, it's opening a hotel and weathering a pandemic. And so we had just gone through those two things concurrently. And I mean, another great byproduct of this otherwise very strange situation was it really did bring us together. And we believe in just creating a culture of taking care of one another and putting the real humanity of what we do in hospitality at the forefront of that. You know, for us, we get so many amazing comments from guests saying that one of their favorite parts of the stay was how warm and genuine and sincere all of the staff members are, and that when they leave, they feel like they have just spent some time at someone's personal home instead of at a hotel. And that for us is the best compliment that we can get.
Right.
Well, yeah, and I did feel that way when I was there, and I've always felt that way the times that I've stayed with both at the main Brush Creek Lodge and when I had a chance to stay at the McGee, which is such a special place. So I will be interested to hear what Mike says.
You know, I echo what's been said. It's really amazing because in 5 weeks we're going to go through our seasonal orientation again. And last year was the first year that we kind of skimped it down a little bit because we didn't know what to expect. And we're going back to the full 11-day program. And what that does for us, that creates a team of people. And again, we run about 65% retention. So we carry a staff of about 85 people in the winter. So those guys are our 12-month guys. But then we still bring back a total of about 65% on our retention. So these guys are the veterans. These guys who have been with us for 6, 7, 8, and 10 years, they are the leaders that bring along the new people. But the spirit to serve, after those 11 days, the best thing we can do is open because they can't wait to serve. And we hear the same thing. You know, the Whites have built a remarkable ranch. They've overinvested, they've spent so much money, but that's just bricks and mortar. And it really truly is our associates who make this day, who create the indelible memories. And I know it's the same in both of your properties as well. You can look at every TripAdvisor that we have. They don't talk about the bed, and they don't talk about the pillow, and they talk about the staff. And when our staff members are spending hours and upon hours out on the creek or out on the gun range or on the back of a horse and telling stories and educating our guests about our ranch, that's what makes the indelible memory. And it's done by associates who never are going to be paid enough. I agree with you, Sarah. It's a way of life. They come out here. And what's really interesting now is I had guys start with me when they were in their early 20s. And now they're like 30. And they're like, Mike, I don't know how much longer I can do this because I got to grow up one of these days. But I'm going to keep doing it because I love it. And one of the great things about our mornings here is when everybody gathers around the big barn, and they gather around where their activity is posted. But before the guests even start gathering, we have our guides there. So that 20-minute gathering time, it is amazing to see shaking of hands. Well, not last year shaking of hands, but hopefully it was fist pumps. And just talking about, where you're from and where I'm from and how long I've been doing it. It's just amazing the connection that our associates, all of our associates have with our guests.
So, I think one thing that's always a challenge is, it can sometimes be difficult to appeal to like this wide demographic and people that, within a family even, that just have like multiple interests within one family, especially multi-gen family. And like, I know, like sometimes I'm planning an itinerary, and we have clients where the wife might be super active and the husband's just like, I just want to chill out when I'm on vacation. Why are you telling me to go to this place where there's like 20 different activities? And because, well, that's what your wife tells me she wants to do. So I'd be interested to hear, and they're like, oh, it's too adventuresome, it's too sporty, we're not super outdoorsy people. But I think that I'd be interested to hear from you all. How do we tempt these people who don't necessarily picture themselves to be outdoorsy to come and enjoy a place like this? Because I think that there's so much to offer. You don't have to be going Mach 12 with your hair on fire doing 10 activities in a day. There's much more to it than that. And maybe just you want to take this to start off with.
Sure. It's funny that you say that, because we actually have been seeing that quite a bit at Blue Sky. So we create these itineraries for every person before they arrive to the property. So we'll work with their travel advisor to design something for them. And in the pre-arrival conversations, it's a lot of Mach 10 jam-pack my schedule requests, because they've been inside for a year. They want to get outside. They want to really go, go, go. And then the formula is then they get to the property and then they start canceling some things. And that actually makes us really happy, because that means that they're taking some time for themselves. And I think it's good when you're looking at properties like all three of these, to create a little bit of soul space in your itinerary where you don't book an afternoon and you can just leave it a little bit more opportunistic. And I think that people don't realize that they need that, because they've been cooped up for a year. They've had this kind of global pause going for the last 12 to 18 months. And I think that it surprises people when it just feels that great to just simply be with yourself. So at Blue Sky, we do have a lot of outdoor adventure activities for people to do, but we also have these beautiful spaces, indoor spaces and outdoor spaces. So I know me personally, when I go to a new property, one of the first things that I do is I scope out both indoor and outdoor spaces for where's there a great nook where I can just sit down and read a book and just look at the view and drink a pot of tea. And we have so many beautiful spaces like that. We've got an incredible infinity pool that looks over this very dramatic west-facing canyon. We've got a cliffside wellness sanctuary where there's all kinds of beautiful spaces where you can just go and relax. You can decompress before or after your treatment. We've got lots of great outdoor spaces like that. And then for someone that wants, maybe a little bit of movement, but doesn't want to go heli hiking, we can do these beautiful self-guided walks where it's a lot more gentle, but it's along the banks of the creek that runs right through the center of our property. And we can give them little booklets on, plant life and animal life and things to look out for along the way, so that it just, again, kind of creates that grounding experience and people can go at their own pace. And I think, everyone in the last year has kind of been forced to do a lot of things, and to just allow yourself and your body to just go with the flow and do what it feels like doing on a given day is a really good thing.
Yeah. Mike?
Well, you just, you described why we built the farm. So the farm at Brush Creek was opened partially about 2 years ago, but now in 2021, we're fully open. And in about 2 weeks, we're going to have about 40 new goat kiddos. And the program is alive and well, but the farm has created, and when we first started in 2010, it was all activities, and now it's more. So you can do a full day at the farm, and you start off by going to our 30,000 square foot greenhouse, and you harvest the produce with the chef that you're going to do your cooking class at midday. Then you're going to go over and spend time with the goats and understand that whole program about how we milk them the same 2 times every day, how we take that milk, how we move it to the creamery in the milking parlor, how we make our cheeses and our butters. Then you're going to go over and do a cooking class with the chefs. And you're going to eat your own food at lunch that you've prepared. Then you're going to go over to the distillery and learn how we make our Brush Creek Ranch spirits and our gin and our vodka and our bourbon and our rye. You'll learn and you'll see the big still that's named Esther. It's a big copper still. Then you'll go to the brewery and how we make our own beer. And then you'll go down to the cattle barns. We only serve our cattle, our beef. It's 100% American Wagyu. And we've been doing that program now for 4 years. And then the end of the day, you get to wrap up down in the wine tunnel. It's a 96-yard long wine tunnel that has an inventory of, I think we're up about 45,000 bottles of wine. And to really go through a wine tasting to wrap up your afternoon. And none of that is out shooting an arrow or shooting a gun. And we do that 3 times a week, 10 people at a time. And it really gives them the opportunity to learn. And we've always had the mantra of educate, enhance, and enjoy. And those are the 3 things that we always try to fit into the box. But I'm exactly with Jessica. People who stay for a week, when they get to that 6th or 7th day, they're on the deck reading a book.
Totally.
They just want to sit in the shade. They want to enjoy. They want to take that private hike. They want to go up into the 1 million acres of national forest that abuts our property and just take it easy. But we are lucky people to be involved in properties that way. And I was on the hotel side of our business for 27 years, and I've been here for 11. And it's just the best job you could ever have.
Sarah?
Oh, you're singing my song, Michael. You're singing my song. And Jessica, your 2 words, soul space. How powerful is that? Because I think that just nailed it. I use the expression and you're absolutely right. I mean, everybody comes running through the front door and got to get a million things done. And it's like, whoa. So I have the expression, the art of doing nothing. And I think that's an activity. And I have it on my menu, the art of doing nothing, which is stunning and is exactly what the 2 of you were saying, is how do you encourage them to understand that actually is a really good activity. And we, for the first time this year at Clayoquot, I'm really excited. And I learned this from my days of living in Colorado and taking self-guided hikes around mountains and coming back alive. Here at Clayoquot, we've always sent people out with guides. And I understand that from a safety security point of view, but I said, how empowering to be able to have a self-guided tour along the river by yourself and have that quiet time with your loved one. And that's a form of forest bathing that is so important. And I think that's going to be a critical change here for this property, is inspiring our guests to have that quiet time with each other and with nature, and find that soul space so that they can, I think that'll be the luxurious activity of all time. And I'm just seeing such a trend and a change. And I think after this particularly special year 2020, guests are going to be looking for that even more. So we are carving out those special places for them in this rainforest where they can have that special solo time alone and really, really reconnect in their space. So I make that my personal business. That's something I flow very closely in amongst the guests, and I use myself as a prototype. I'm not supersonic fit. I'm 58 years old. I'm living in the wilderness by myself with my dog, and I really encourage people that if they want to take a little walk or take a little, if I can do it, they can do it, and take that time out. So when I'm trying to balance the couples where one is not so activity based and one is crazy, I can meet them in the middle. And of course, I'm mom, and I do play that role. So I gather everybody around to make sure that they actually get the spirited conversation of what is really best for them. Because my goal is I just want them to fall back and love, hold hands, be a family, take care of each other, and have those memories of their quality time together. So I think that exactly what Michael and Jessica said is really what's happening with our guests coming through the door. And our job is to help them find that path organically and discover their their inner selves in the outside world. So nothing wrong with reading a book at the end of the day. That's what I say.
Yeah, and there's plenty of space and opportunity to do that. So, Mike, you touched on something that's very near and dear to me, and that's food and beverage. I think sometimes just like this idea that you go to these places and you have to be super busy all the time, the other kind of maybe misconception or preconceived connotation is that you go out to these lodges and ranches and the food is going to be really super basic. And I know from my own personal experience staying with you and staying with Jess, and I'm sure if I went to Clayoquot, it would be the same thing. That is far from the truth. But I want to hear from all of you, what's going on from a culinary perspective to kind of help entice our foodie clients, which we have many of, and to explain to them that these aren't food deserts, right? And we also have lots of clients that they like to eat vegan, or maybe they're pescatarians, or they have gluten-free diets, that they can still travel and stay with you, and those are not issues or concerns that they need to that they have to have. It's not all about meat and potatoes. Yes, you have amazing Wagyu beef, but you're going to have lots of other options for them as well. So I know, Mike, you kind of touched on that briefly a minute ago, but I'll have you dive in a little bit.
Sure. You talk about the evolution of Brush Creek Ranch. When we started, we had 3 long tables at the lodge, and it was family style, and that's what it was. And we quickly found out that is not what our guests wanted. And we've evolved. The first big jump that we did was the re-imaging of the McGee homestead. And we knew that if we were going to turn that into an adults only, very high-end ranch, we wanted to be a 5-star Forbes ranch, which we've achieved. And we also wanted to be in Relais and Chateau, and we are. And with Relais and Chateau, we quickly learned that we had to have a food and beverage program that was at the very, very highest level. And from our experiences over at the McGee Homestead, we knew that we wanted to do something much more grand. And that's why we did the farm. I mean, the farm, and within the farm is the Cheyenne Club. And the Cheyenne Club is our fine dining restaurant. And it is our desire to be a Michelin rated restaurant. But it's been so much fun getting there. I mean, I was on the hotel side for many, many years. We operate 120 hotels across the country. So food and beverage has always been a cornerstone of what we do. But what we're doing here is getting to the point of precision, especially over in the Cheyenne Club. When we roll out a menu, it's 4 months of development. It's every plate getting tested 5 times. It is specifications down to the finest detail. And it takes really creative, dedicated culinary team, chefs, to execute that. And on the flip side, our wine sommelier, Rob Smith's just terrific young man who just is so passionate about our wine cellar. And he just lives down in the cellar, and he experiences and brings up that experience to our guests. And we just went through our our special cocktail training, and to watch our beverage managers and our bartenders, the passion that they have to explain these new cocktails and the precision of these cocktails. Food and beverage, at the price point that we are, it's expected. And so not only is it expected, we have to work very, very hard to exceed that expectation. And sure, we still have our Friday night cookout down by the creek. Absolutely, because that's the balance. That is absolutely the balance. The other thing that happened here for us, COVID, which was just the best learning ever, and we'll never turn back, is you can no longer do a buffet. We couldn't do a buffet here, COVID. And we just had always done a buffet breakfast, always. We thought it was easier. And we quickly found that our food quality, our creativity, temperature of food, cost of food, the reduction in cost of food, we'll never go back to a buffet. And our guests loved it even more. So there are very positive things that come out of COVID, but food and beverage, and not all ranches. If you're a dude ranch, you're going to probably be and stay basic because that's what you expect. But at our level, our guests are world travelers, and they expect a great food and beverage experience.
Well, I think one thing that people don't realize, and I'm going to let Jess and Sarah dive into this a little bit, is you all are creating farm to table. You are all harvesting from your land and from your sea. I mean, sea because you're on the cloth lot is on the sea, but it's not like, for the most part, you're really trying to bring as much local product to the guests as possible, which really makes for such a wonderful food and beverage experience. It's not chili and hamburgers. I mean, yes, there might be chili and hamburgers, but it's not Nally's and, whatever. So anyways, just not to interrupt, but that's just my perspective. And Jess?
I'll start with Bishop's Lodge, but you're exactly right. So at Bishop's Lodge in Santa Fe, our concept chef is Dean Fearing, who, if you're familiar with him, he's renowned as the godfather of Southwestern cuisine. He's just incredible. But one of his big missions when he first started with the property was to make relationships and build relationships with local artisanal purveyors and growers. And in Santa Fe, everyone that grows something or produces something, they do it with such passion. And in most cases, if you look at Hatch chilies as one example, Hatch chili growers in New Mexico, that's been in their family for generations and generations. So growing things like that, they take such immense pride in, and that's a big part of their family's identity. So being able to work with local growers and purveyors like that nearby and celebrate what they do on the plate, that's a big part of the overall story that we're trying to tell through the food that we do at Bishop's Lodge. And then our pastry chef is an amazing woman named Kate Holland, who just came to us from the French Laundry, and she creates these incredible desserts and fresh baked breads and pastries and things like that. So if you wanted to take even something just casual, like a rustic sandwich with you on a hike into the national forest that we're right beside, all of the breads that she makes are just next level amazing. So similar to what Mike was saying, we have these incredible masters of what they do working with us at Bishop's, and same at Blue Sky in Park City as well, but it doesn't feel stuffy. It feels appropriate for the sense of place. It feels accessible. It feels homey. So it doesn't need to be, even though there's at Blue Sky, our executive chef is a James Beard award-winning chef. So that's an incredible accolade. But what he does it with so much soul and so much passion. And we can do dining in such a variety of different spaces. We can do it in the restaurant, which is a little bit more of a more fine dining experience, or we can do something that's a casual picnic. We can also do a mountaintop dinner in our yurt next to the fire. So there's a whole bunch of different spaces that we can kind of curate depending on what the needs of the guests are. And then with Galen, who's our executive chef at Blue Sky, he works really closely with our director of farming to create all of these seasonal menus based on what's in season, because I'm sure Mike knows this very well too. Our growing season at our sustainable farm, it's very short in the Rockies. It's about 75 days. And so we have to get pretty creative with extending the longevity of the growing season through things like greenhouses and hoop houses and pickling and jarring. So there's a whole seasonal calendar that just really celebrates different ingredients that we can either serve fresh or that we can serve in some sort of preserved form. Things like root vegetables tend to be a little hardier, and we can grow those in a slightly tougher climate in the winter months. So everything that we see, it really does have that level of sophistication there, but it has a real earthiness to it as well. And it feels homey and accessible.
My stomach's growling now. Sarah?
Yeah, well said, Jessica, because that's what it's all about is, for me, it's about real food. And I think that's the most important thing. We're an activity-based resort. So it's really, really important for me that we fuel the energy of our guests. We want to keep them healthy. We want to keep them eating. I think the art of eating is also, to me, a well-known activity: breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks. And fine dining as well as exterior outdoor spaces. How do we cater to those moments and then create that special dish that suits that moment? We have to be able to cater to all forms of diets. That's done naturally. Here in the rainforest, and what I'm excited about is our new director of food and beverage, Asher Blackford. He joins us from Bailey Lodges, who has just rebranded Clackwat. And so we're very privileged to be able to work closely with Bailey Lodges, and they've sent us one of their top leaders to come in for our food and beverage program. Just the passion of talking to this gentleman in regards to his absolute adoration for working with local indigenous infusion into his food as he connects with all the local fishermen. He's already got programs in place for anybody that's got anything fresh coming out of the ocean. He's incorporating that into our menus and building also for me, I'm about what do we pack out with them on their trail hikes or their horseback rides or their activities out in the woods. And how are we going to be able to create that special surprise pop-up moment wherever we're going to take our guests and have that gorgeous campfire already out there, but with this particularly homey meal, but that's absolutely got a twist of what Asher is going to put in there for making it above and beyond what their expectations are. I think a lot of it is the passion of the people. You hire the right skill set that just, this is their life. This is what they're in love with. This is what they want to do. And connecting back to wherever you can go locally and work with those suppliers, it changes everything. It changes exactly what you bring to the table. And I think that's how we, all of us in these resorts, work our life. In the case of Michael, he's got his own farm. I mean, this is amazing, being able to have that at your fingertips. We have a little greenhouse here. It's not enough. So I need to be very close to all my farmers on Vancouver Island. And that's what we do. We are, relationship is number one in place with our locals. So we take it very seriously, but we like to keep it real, keep it tasty, and make sure that we get your bellies full of the right food for your trips outdoors.
Fun. So I'd love to hear from each of you your top 3 must-do experiences, because, you know, I think it's really all about experiential travel. I mean, I think that's the new luxury, right? I mean, I think people are wanting, they're emerging from their self-imposed cocoons now. And I think the one thing that we've kind of been hearing about emerge now is this new trend of experiences really being first and foremost about what people are really wanting out of travel. So I'd love to hear from each of you what your top 3 must-do experiences are, and they don't have to be just summer focused. For those of you, the properties that are open year round, they can be summer and or winter. And Jess, I'll have you start off.
Sure. So at the lodge at Blue Sky, one of my favorite activities personally, and definitely one of our most beloved activities with guests, is our horse program. So our owners have a horse rescue foundation right on the property. They're very committed to animal rescue. And we have now over 80 rescue horses on the property. Some of them are rideable for things like trail rides, which are just fantastic. And then we also have a multitude of other horse-related programs that guests can do. So one of those is what we call natural horsemanship lessons. And that's actually a type of equine therapy where you work with a wrangler to learn how to communicate with your horse using energetic nonverbal cues. And it's incredibly powerful. People that are, you know, maybe not interested in doing a ride or aren't comfortable around horses, they'll try it and might feel a little trepidatious at first, and then they just have these really kind of profound experiences afterwards. And there's definitely been some tears after these, good tears after these types of experiences before. So certainly the horse program is one of them. In the summertime, our heli program is pretty remarkable. We have an on-site heli program where a helicopter will land on site, and then we're right in the middle of what's called the Wasatch Mountain Range. So that's the mountain range where Park City and Deer Valley are. So we've got some really interesting access to some high alpine activities in that mountain range. And then running parallel to that is the Uintas Mountain Range. And that's a little bit more wild and a little more remote. And that is definitely what people seem to be gravitating towards right now. So doing a heli hiking excursion is definitely one of my personal favorites. So it's about a 10-minute scenic flight where you're just going over these really majestic mountain peaks, and then they land in this open field next to an old hunting cabin where we have an outdoor cedar soaking tub. So you can go on this incredible hike and just, you're only looking at 365-degree views of mountain peak panoramas. It's just incredible. And then once you finish this epic hike, you can come back to the cabin. You can have a little glass of champagne or a picnic lunch, and then do a little soak in the cedar soaking tub. And then we'll fly you back to the property. So that's pretty incredible. And then I'll throw out one for Bishop's Lodge as well. One of the things that we're really excited about for this new property, which opens July 1st, is we're working with a local, she's very fascinating. She's part energy worker and part perfumier. So she makes these incredible scents, but she also has a background in energy working. And so she's going to come to the property, and in the original chapel that's still on site that dates back to 1860, she's going to be doing these amazing workshops where she takes these ancient resins like frankincense and myrrh, and she teaches you how to grind them up and then make your own sacred incense. And each one of those different resins has some kind of different healing property. So you get to pick what the different ones are that you want to use based on the different needs that you have at the time that you're doing the experience. So you get to make something that's really, truly unique to you, and then you get to take it home with you. And scent is just such a sensory reminder of great memories. So I think that's a really nice thing to be able to take home and just kind of bring home that feeling of calm with you.
Very cool. Sarah?
Awesome. Oh, I'm right there with Jessica. Heli hiking, horseback riding. Let's call it all. I'd say do it all in one trip.
Yeah.
But I those are my three favorite. That comes to mind immediately. I just lived with, the last year with 30 horses. I'm attached to these animals. You talk about equine therapy. I have had so many special stories on horseback. So every itinerary's got horses in it. I'm adamant about a day on the horseback in a rainforest. Your life is complete. I can't say enough. The heli is my life. We live in such a spectacular corner of Vancouver Island. I mean, it's a pocket of paradise. So to get people on top of a mountain up here, Glacier Lakes. So let's get them up there for a scenic tour and drop them down on a glacier lake, throw them in a wetsuit on an inflatable SUP, have a nice swim. They're going to love it, because there's also the potential just to enjoy the day around hiking, SUP, or we have kayaks as well. So we can do inflatable kayaking, drop you off on this untouched river, and we'll meet you down at the ocean a little bit later. So we make these special experiences because most humans don't ever go there. And it really is where we're allowed to land with our guests and show them some of the untouched wilderness that we have around here. And there's a new adventure here called canyoning. I can hardly even say it.
Oh, yeah, fun.
Well, it's not traditional. This is a Canadian experience. When I went out with the kids to do this.
In New Zealand too. I've always wanted to do it, so.
Yeah, so this is cold water. Yeah. But once I jumped into my wetsuit, and then I paddled up river, and then I just started climbing through these beautiful canyon that we have here in our backyard. And then I went underwater. I was stunned at how beautiful our rivers are. And then all of a sudden I was swimming with salmon. So I happened to be doing this in September, and they're spawning, and then you're just surrounded by these fish. Yeah, it was pretty amazing, I have to tell you. So those are just a few of the adventures. I love them all. I'm so enthusiastic. I could go on forever. Heli, hiking, horseback riding, the 3 H's. Let's do it.
Okay. And Mike?
Of course, you got to say horses.
Yeah. Why do you think I cry every time I leave?
I mean, if you have ranch in your name, you got to do horses. So we've got 220 horses here on the ranch, and we do every 4 types of trail rides. It's not nose to tail. We do horse instruction, barrel racing, pole bending, flag racing. But the best thing I think personally, and I do it, is going over to our 15,000 acre Sanger Ranch. It's where the Whites, the owners, live, and do the full day horseback ride. It's just, I mean, you see nothing but the landscape. The granite outcroppings, rock outcroppings are just phenomenal, but you see the West like the West was seen back in the day. You don't see a highway, you don't hear a noise, you see wildlife. Our wranglers know the land inside out. They talk about the land, again, that educate, enhance, and enjoy. The second thing I do, and we're right in the tail end of it right now, we opened up Green Mountain last year, and that's our private ski resort, Ski Mountain, and it's snowcat based. We take 12 people a day. It's your private mountain. It has 10 runs, has an elevation change of about 1,400 vertical feet. It's mostly blue, black skiing. It's really terrific. And just to have that all to yourself with your family or with another family, it's a unique experience. You know, the lunch that's served at the top yurt is just, you know, people are just blown away by it. They're like, I thought I was just getting a sandwich. And it's really just, it just exceeds all expectations. And then to come back and get a spa treatment, or come back and jump in a hot tub, and then go over to the farm and have a unique experience. It's a full day. And then last but not least, I mean, we are just, you know, we're so lucky to have the Platte River in our backyard, and to be able to go out and fly fish in the Platte River, which is world renowned for trout fishing, and to spend 8 hours and have a great, unexpected, beautiful, prepared packed lunch with an experienced guide, and catch a lot of fish, and just the pictures that come back from that. Those are three really terrific things to do on a ranch.
Well, we're almost out of time. I do want to get to some questions that came in, but I'm going to end with this last thing. So if there was one important thing that you wanted our clients to know about your properties or your destination, what would it be? And Sarah, I'm going to have you go first.
One important thing, we live off the grid. We are not, we're connected, but my advice to everybody is leave your devices in your pocket, and come with an open mind to embrace moments of silence, moments of quality time, and the world's going to wait for you. So when you come into Clackawatt, come in wholehearted, just to embrace the home of Mother Nature. And that's really my message.
And Jessica?
So for both of my properties, what I would say is they have, you know, they're both set on these big pieces of land, but we're really easy to get to. So for the Lodge at Blue Sky, we're on a 4,000 acre ranch just outside of Park City, but we're only 35 minutes from Salt Lake City Airport. So the access there is really, really quick and easy. And you can be in downtown Park City also in about 20 minutes. And then for Bishop's Lodge, same thing. That's on a 320 acre ranch, but we're only 5 minutes from the downtown square of Santa Fe. So you've got this really interesting mashup of worlds. The ranch itself sits right next to 1.5 million acres of Santa Fe National Forest. So you have this real feeling of wildness, but then 5 minutes down the road, you have access to this incredibly artistic cultural mecca that is Santa Fe, for all of the art galleries and studios that exist there. So easy to get to, but lots of, you feel like you're a world away.
And Mike, your one important thing?
Well, so we're on 30,000 acres, so we're not that close to a big airport. We do have a private airport right here in Saratoga that basically can take any aircraft. It's 8,800 foot long runway. It's a terrific airport. But our big thing, and it's a lot like Sarah, you know, we believe in to enjoy, to enhance, and educate. And we want people to come here with the mantra of learn to do and learn to do better. And don't be anxious. When we do our pre-arrival calls, we talk to our clients 4 different times during the pre-arrival process. You can sometimes feel that anxiety, but when they get here and they go out and they see the competency of the guides, and it's like, these guys are so good. And I never rode a horse, and now I want to get a horse. I never shot a gun, and I'm going to join a gun club. It's just that's what's rewarding. So again, come here. Don't be afraid. Try something new. Do something you never thought you'd ever do in your life, because that's what the vacation is for.
I agree.
Well said.
Yeah. So just a couple quick questions. There was a question that came in, and this is for all 3 of you. For large multi-generational families, how early should we plan to come to your property? So how far out would you suggest that they work with us to book?
Well, I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
I would say the booking pace has heightened, that is for sure. But I would say a year to 18 months in advance is right for our business.
Sarah, would you say the same for?
Yeah, a year in advance.
Okay. And sometimes there might be pockets, but better to plan far out, right? Yeah.
Correct.
And Jess, so we know you mentioned just now that Bishop's Lodge opening early July, and of course, Blue Sky is open and it's open year round. What would you suggest for clients that are wanting to come to those 2 properties?
So for Blue Sky, we're a very seasonal property. So we're actually the busiest in the summer from May until October, but we are just 20 minutes from downtown Park City in the winter for amazing skiing, and we do heli skiing from the property. So what we find is in the summer for the peak season, the sooner the better. At this point, to echo Mike's comments, we're really starting to kick into high gear for summer bookings at this stage. And one of the big trends that we're seeing, we call them vaxications. It's where everyone's getting their vaccine, and it's kind of the big first reunion that they're having all together, where the grandparents have had their shots and then other people have had theirs, and so they're excited to come back together. So that's the bulk of the bookings that we're taking at the moment. So for June, July, August, I would say the sooner the better. And then certainly if you're thinking about next year, a year out is probably good for that. It's a little bit of a shorter lead time for ski season.
Okay. As travelers yourself, what's one thing you've all been looking forward to? Maybe, let's see, maybe Mike, you can start with that.
You know what, honestly, I've never been busier since March 20th of last year. And I'm sure we all feel the same. We had to totally reposition our business. We had to totally try to figure out, would we survive? Would we be open? Model after model. Should I open one ranch? Should I open another ranch? I have done 50 performas over the last year. And so what I'm looking for, and it's going to happen in about 2 weeks, I'm going on vacation.
I was going to say, sounds like you need a vacation.
I'm going on vacation. The other thing that we're experiencing too, and it's not a Brush Creek Ranch thing. Again, we're a hotel operator too, and we furloughed 7,000 out of 8,500 associates. So it was just an extremely difficult time for us as an organization. And what we found as an organization too is getting back to our roots. And our business, our company's been around since 1985, and everything we do, it's with a restated purpose. So it's been a busy year. There's been ups, there's been downs. 2021 should be a terrific year for us. I'm sure our industry on the leisure side. So we're really excited to put this in the rearview mirror.
Good. Jess?
Well, professionally, I'm excited to get Bishop's Lodge open in the summer because it's going to be a real treasure. And then personally, it's funny, this last year, I kind of envisioned myself craving destinations once, the world starts opening up, like Africa, South America, someplace a little more exotic than what my own personal backyard looks like. And now that we're there, it's the complete opposite. I'm originally from Toronto, and I'm just so excited to go home and see my family. So I'm actually going there next week for the first time in a year. I haven't seen my family in about 16 months, which is the longest I've ever gone. So that for me is the big ticket item right there. It's just getting home and seeing my loved ones.
Yeah, that'll be nice. Sarah?
Oh, that's so special. Yeah, I just want to open. Managing a closed resort for a year and a bit. I just want to open. And no time for a vacation, but I'm with Michael. It's been incredibly busy. So my whole focus is to get my staff back to work, get the tents up, and welcome our guests here. And I'm going to cry the day that happens. So that's my focus right now.
Thank you all again.
Great.
I just appreciate your time, your enthusiasm, your love of what you do and where you are. And I look forward to seeing you all in person as soon as time permits. And just best wishes for a really super successful 2021. So take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you very much, Charlene.
All right, you're
Thanks,
welcome.
Michael, Jessica.
Bye.
Nice meeting everybody.
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.